Hello and welcome back to Lately Fashionable. I am 3 days into my mini challenge of wearing dresses every day for a month, and I can already tell that I'm going to need some more dresses. As I detailed in my month 6 update of my Year of Dressing Vintage, where I first laid out this challenge, I have technically 17 dresses, but some of those I can't really wear on a daily basis because they are silk, very formal, and or do not have pockets. And one of the dresses is technically a house coat, so I will not be wearing that if I'm going to be out and about. That is something I will wear on days when I don't have anywhere to go, or I'm feeling sick, or just otherwise not up to getting dressed fully. It'll be a housecoat day. So that leaves me with 13 dresses, one of which I have already decided I'm not going to wear on its own as a dress anymore. It has become a swimsuit cover-up for me, and I also occasionally wear it as a blouse with skirts. But for this month-long challenge, I am not allowing myself to wear dresses as blouses or dresses as skirts. I have a couple wrap dresses that I can wear as a skirt with a blouse, but I'm not doing that this month. I'm only wearing dresses as dresses. So that's really 12. 12 dresses that certainly I can wear in rotation and get 2 or 3 wears out of each one, maybe add a cardigan if it starts to get chilly, because most of these are definitely summer dresses, and I could do that. I could just wear those 12 dresses for 31 days. 30 days. 30 days has September? 30 days. But I don't want to. I want to make more dresses because I love sewing, and that's what this channel is, so I'm gonna make some more, and let's see how many I can get done. I definitely want to make at least 2, and then I have stretch goals, and then I also have a dress I'm going to alter, but I'll come back to that. The first one I definitely want to make is this vintage pattern from this fitted sheet. I'll be making this view with the long sleeves. They're really 3/4 length sleeves. And I really like this purple sheet. I really love this purple color, and the dress on the envelope is purple, so that's perfect. And I think that will be a really good fall, winter, spring dress with the longer sleeves, but also it's cotton, so I might be able to get away with wearing it sometimes in the summer months. We'll see. And then I either want to make this red wool dress with the long sleeves from this pattern, which I have made before, but we'll come back to that, because I really want to have at least one nice long sleeve wool dress for winter. And I really like this shade of red. My camera keeps readjusting the brightness, so it's a little hard to capture. But this will be nice for Christmas. If I put a sprig of holly in my hair, it's automatically a Christmas dress. And if I wear a heart-shaped brooch, it's automatically a Valentine's Day dress. So I will have a lot of fun wearing this. And like I said, I want to either make that wool dress or this wool dress. This is a thinner wool fabric, and I really love the pattern on it. It's a beautiful plaid. And I've been dying to use this pattern. I just think it is so fun. And also, I think it would be a good candidate for sneaky separates. If I extend the bodice and make it as a blouse, I can make the skirt separate and then wear them with other coordinating pieces. So that would make this the basis for a capsule wardrobe, potentially. I've always loved the idea of creating a capsule wardrobe based around a plaid fabric, because you can pull so many different colors from it and mix and match the plaid pieces with solid colors and maybe other patterns, but I just think that would be really fun. So with this, I can really have my cake and eat it too. I could have the full dress if I wear both pieces together, but I could also wear the plaid top with some maroon pants, or I could wear the skirt with a green top, or a white blouse and a red cardigan. The possibilities are numerous, and I'm really excited about that. Now, stretch goals. If I get all of that done, and I still have more time, I would really like to make another of this wrap dress that I've made before. You've seen my yellow 70s wrap dress. I have worn that dress so much. I've had it for, longer than my daughter's been alive. 9 years, I think. Yeah, 9 years. And I really want another one. I think this fabric would be really pretty. I love pink. I love bright florals. But that is very summery, so if I don't get to that one this month, I will probably wait until next spring to start working on it, and that's okay. My other stretch goal is this silk charmeuse, which I just think would make the most beautiful, drapey, gorgeous dress. I don't even know what sort of occasion I would wear this for, but I'll come up with something. But like I said, that's a stretch goal. My more immediate priority is altering this dress. Now you may recognize this pattern, which is what I used to make this dress back in the day. I believe this was also 9 years ago, and it no longer fits me. The wrap dress fits me because I made it as an actual wrap dress, not a faux wrap dress with a center back zipper, which is what the pattern tells me to do. No. But this one, I did follow the instructions and I put in an invisible side zipper, which I don't necessarily regret, but this was never going to be an adjustable dress anyway. But I do think it will be possible to alter it. A little over a year ago, I remember seeing this blog post from Wearing History. I will link it below. She found this little tutorial in a magazine from 1953 on how to let out a dress with long sleeves, which involves shortening the sleeves and using that cut-off piece of fabric to create triangles, which you then sew as a gusset into the side seams. Now, as you may notice, my dress already has short sleeves. I had to make it that way because at the time I did not have enough fabric, and I really wanted to make this dress. So I just made the sleeves as long as I possibly could. You will note there are 2 different sleeve options included within the pattern, but I didn't want that short because that was more of a summer style and I was making it out of wool. So I just used the long sleeve pattern and got the longest piece I could get. But I do have scraps left over of this fabric, and I think I can use them in the same manner to add a piece in here. So we're going to try it out. I'm going to start with the alteration because I think that should be fairly quick and easy. Here's hoping. Wish me luck. Okay, I've got my wedges cut from both the wool outer fabric and the rayon lining that I originally used. I also had scraps of that left. And I have seam ripped the right side of the dress through both layers. I added a pocket in here a year or so ago. The dress did not originally have one, but thankfully it has one now. And I'm leaving the pocket attached to the front, so I'm going to put this wedge in behind the pocket, so it's going to be towards the back of the side seam. And I'm going to put one in first and try the dress on and see if it fits. Because if I don't have to mess with the zipper, I'm not going to. And since the dress is already asymmetrical, the skirt, you know, it's an asymmetrical design, I think I might be able to get away with only putting a wedge in one side. We'll see. The back is symmetrical, so if it looks really funky when I'm wearing it from the back, I might put the other one in. But I'm going to try to just do one. So let's see. Here we go. Well, I have good news and bad news. The good news is this definitely worked, and it's really not even very noticeable. You can see it because the pocket is kind of popping out, and I haven't fully sewn the seam back up yet. But as an alteration, I think that's great. The bad news is I definitely do need the wedge on the other side, which means I have to mess with the zipper, and I really don't want to. Also, it might not even be worth it because I am not really gaining anything in the bust. I have gained 2.5 inches at the waist, but I need more space in the bust than I anticipated. 9 years and 2 kids. I've gained weight, and I've gained it in the bust. So even if I got this closed, it would not be big enough. So I think I'm gonna have to give up on this dress. Which I'm really sad about because I love this color. I love the style of this dress. The skirt is really nice. I wanted it back in my wardrobe, but I think that is not to be. Well, that was a bust. But it's probably good that I started with that project, because that experience informs how I will go about making this dress, because I only have up to a size 12. I am not a size 12 anymore. And looking at the pattern pieces, I can tell that I didn't even cut out the size 12 when I made the original dress. I clearly graded up to what would be a size 14, and that is also not big enough for me anymore. I definitely need at least a size 16, but going by how well that fit, even with the wedge added, probably 18. So at this point, I think I'm going to need to buy a larger size of the same pattern, if I can find it. So once again, wish me luck. So, good news, I was able to find the larger size range of the pattern on a creative reuse website called D-Stash Co. And the price was right, so I ordered it and it should be here next week. And in the meantime, I think I'm going to start on the purple dress. Also in the meantime, I think I'm going to start gathering up the patterns that I have in my stash that are not in my size range and donate them to D-Stash Co. because I'm not going to be using them, somebody else might, and I definitely want to support creative reuse and thrift stores whenever possible. Okay, so I have prepped my fabric and my pattern pieces by ironing them both. I had to repair a couple of the pattern pieces because it is a vintage pattern. It's from the 40s, it's delicate, but I did confirm that all of the pieces are intact and present. And also that this pattern is not my size. It's close. It is a size 16, which is a bust 34, and I'm a bust 36, but when I looked at the corresponding body measurements chart for a 16, the waist is 28 inches, and my waist is definitely not 28 inches. I think it's closer to 34. Actually, let's check. Let me just measure real quick. 35. Actually, my bust is 39. I don't know when that happened, but that's okay because I was already planning on adding width to all of the pieces, and I have a pretty systematic way that I do that. I'm going to show you on the table. So this is the original bodice front piece. This is the waist, which it's good that it's marked because I was having a hard time figuring out what all was happening with this pattern piece. But here's the armhole. This gets gathered into this yoke, and then this is going to match up here. That will get folded over and hemmed for the front neckline edge. And then this is going to get gathered to a stay, and then that's the center front of the bodice. So knowing that this was the waist, I held the pattern piece up to my body, and this is definitely not going to be large enough to cover my waist in the front. Now this piece, I think, almost covers my back. It's a little harder to observe on myself because I can't see my own back. And I think I am going to just leave out the tucks. I've done that before on vintage patterns that have darts or tucks at the back waist. If I just leave them out, the pattern fits me. But this piece, I knew I needed to add quite a bit. So I went ahead and traced it, and then I pivoted here to get this line the same, and then added at the underarm, which I will also do when I cut out the waist back, and then moved that out and pivoted here so that this is still going to match the side seam of the back piece. And then I also went ahead and added a 1/2 inch because this piece hasn't been cut yet, so I still have margins of the pattern. So I just drew in a 1/2 inch additional, and I'll cut that line away to make the sleeve a little bit bigger so that it will fit in the adjusted armhole that I'm making. And this piece is going to stay the same. The back, I'm going to actually put this edge of the paper on the fold instead of the line, and I will probably taper it out a bit. So say this is my fabric and this is the folded edge. I would line this up here and then taper it out so I get more room down at the waist than I will at the neckline edge. But since I am adding width to the neckline edge, I will need to make sure I'm adding the same amount to the center back of the back neck facing piece. Like I said, I don't think the yoke needs to change. I think The front stay I might make longer, just because this feels like it's going to be short-waisted on me, and I don't want it to be too deep of a V in the front. We'll see. And then on each skirt panel, I will add about a 1/2 inch of width on either side of all of the pieces, and that should give me 1, 2, 3, 4 additional inches. I might add a little bit more to the skirt back. Actually, yeah, I'll add more at the skirt back because it's also cut on the fold. I will add the same amount to the skirt back as I am adding to the bottom of the back bodice piece. So that is how I typically size up patterns. If it's just 1 or 2 sizes below my measurements, I can usually just scale it up a little bit, and I'm usually only adding to any of the vertical seams of the garment because I want to add circumference. I don't want to add length, usually. I might add length to this bodice because it does look like it's going to be short-waisted on me. So I'm just trying to keep the proportions of the garment accurate to the original pattern. This is an alteration I do all the time when I'm sewing because I am frequently working with patterns that are either vintage and only have one size, and quite often I will have a pattern that is in my bust size, but then I need to taper out to the waist size that I need. So that's sort of the same thing, and then I need to match the bodice and the skirt, if it's a dress, to those adjusted seam lines. I hope this is making sense. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this out now because I'm itching to get this dress made. Okay, I have all my pieces cut out. I added a little bit more to some of the seams than others. I'm actually not super scientific about how I add extra. It's mostly based on experience working with patterns and sewing for my own body and sort of intuition of where I need to add extra. So you can see I went down about 1 centimeter at the waist on both of these pieces, just because I feel like they're going to be just a little bit short-waisted. So I wanted to give a little extra there. And then I added quite a bit at the center back fold, and then also at each of the skirt panel seams. And I can always adjust as needed once I try everything on. You also probably will have noticed that I was cutting around the perimeter of the sheet, largely to avoid a tear in the center, which is the reason these sheets ended up in my fabric stash in the first place. But also there's more discoloration and overall weakening of the fibers in the center of the sheet, so I tried to stick to the outside edges where there would be less discoloration and wear to the fabric. So I'm hoping that I will have a uniformly purple dress all around, but that remains to be seen. almost forgot about pockets. I need pockets. I have to say, I think this pattern instruction sheet is the most brittle paper I have ever worked with. I have just had to reinforce all along like 3 of the edges just because every time I touched them, they would tear. I do use archival tape when repairing patterns and pattern instructions, so that I don't further damage them, trying to preserve them for future use. I actually have a video about that on my channel. It's an older video, so the sound and picture quality are not as good as they are now, but the information is still good. Anyway, the instructions are fairly straightforward. I need to sew the center fronts together and then ruche up that center front seam and sew the stay to the inside. Those are the first steps in the instructions, but that's not what I did first. I assembled the skirt first so that I could try it on and make sure that it fit. Although technically, that is the first instruction. Baste everything together and try it on to make sure it will fit. It also says to make shoulder pads before a dress is fitted, and always use shoulder pads when fitting the dress. You know, that's probably a good idea. Fortunately, I have shoulder pads ready-made, so I don't have to waste time doing that, because that is something that bores me to tears, and I don't want to do it. So I ordered a bunch online, and I am going to be adding them to other dresses and tops as I continue to go through my wardrobe in my year of dressing vintage, and I am going to assess every individual dress and most of my tops to decide if I should add shoulder pads or not. And that's going to be a separate video. It may come out before this one, we'll see. If that video has already come out, I will link it up here and in the description. And if it hasn't, it will be coming soon, I'm sure. Longtime viewers will probably already know that I tend to work on several projects and therefore several videos all at the same time, and I hop around to whichever project is interesting me at the time or has a deadline. And then the video for a specific project tends to stretch over several weeks, if not months, of time, so I don't always know what order my finished videos will be coming out in. I try to plan it a little bit, but my particular brand of ADHD doesn't work that way. Anyway, I'm gonna go sew this. Here I go. Okay, I have the bodice front constructed, all gathered up and stitched to the stay inside, and just holding it up, you know, against myself. I think it's gonna fit. Remember, this is getting attached to a yoke piece that will then attach to the back at the shoulder seams. But now you can't really see that. I should just attach those pieces and then try it on and show you. Let's do that. There we go. Yeah, that's definitely gonna fit. I may have slightly overcompensated for the short-waisted aspect of the pattern by making it a little too long in the waist, but that's okay. I can always fix that. Let's put the back on it and try it again. Okay, so good news. I definitely added more space to the front than I needed to, and I get to take it in now. Hooray! I think the amount of space that I added to the back is proper and correct, because I was able to put the tucks in the waist, and it's still fully covering my back. But I think I get to take out about an inch on either side of the front to get it nice and fitted. So, looking forward to that. So the thing is, it's really hard to do a fitting on myself. I may need some help. Okay, I had my husband help me with a fitting last night, and he pinned the side seams for me and then left the pins on the front side so that I could see how much they needed to come in, because the back side he was able to pin right at about a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So yeah, I definitely made the front much larger than it needs to be, but that's okay. Always easier to take in than let out. And I also went ahead and covered a couple of shoulder pads that I bought from Wawak. I did follow the instructions, and I tried on the bodice with the shoulder pads while I had my husband pin it for me. So it should fit properly. So now I'm going to baste the side seams together along these pin lines, try it on one more time, make sure I can still get in and out of it, because of course with the side placket opening it's going to be a little more tricky to get in and out of, but that's the nature of these 1940s dresses, I suppose. Okay, here's the basted bodice. I think it's fitting really well. Quite happy with that. I do have the shoulder pads in, and now it's time to attach the skirt. Actually, I'm going to attach the sleeves to the bodice first. I have already sewn the sleeves. They have darts at the elbow. I've sewn both of those in, stitched up the sleeve seam, and hemmed both of them, because it's just easier to do that before they are attached to the bodice. But now we're going to attach them, and then attach the bodice to the skirt, and then hem the skirt, and then do the side snap placket, and then it will be done. Yay! Well, the bodice has sleeves now, and it is pinned to the skirt, but there's a slight problem where I did not add the same amount of width to the seam allowances of the skirt front pieces as I added to the bodice front pieces. So the waist seam is largely the same size. It almost matches up, except that it needs to be centered on the center front, which is here. So the center front of the bodice needs to match up with the center front of the skirt. But if I do that, then the side seams do not match up, which would be fine if this were a center back closure, but since it's a side seam closure, that is a problem. So I've got offset seam allowances at the side seam where I need to put a placket. So I'm going to try something a little unorthodox, and I'm going to try offset plackets for the bodice and the skirt. I think I need to finish the placket edges before I sew the waist seam together, so that I have finished edges covering finished edges. I don't know if this is making sense. I'm gonna try it. I'll get back to you.
There's a viral hack for easing fabric smoothly by holding your finger behind the presser foot and running the machine without any thread in the needle, which lightly pleats up the fabric. The hack is for sleeve heads, and I have used it for that purpose to great effect. So I wanted to see if it would also work for a hem, and it did work pretty well. I first turned under the raw edge and pressed a crease so that I was pleating up this folded edge before sewing it down. And I just used the flat side of a seam ripper to gently guide the fabric under the presser foot as I sewed.
And I lost a bobbin chicken. That's so annoying. I've got like 18 inches left. Okay, the dress is done. Yay. The offset plackets did work. Let me show you real quick. So here's the waist seam, and you can see the plackets are just ever so slightly offset. And I think that's going to be fine because this seam is going to be covered by the belt anyway. And even if it's not, I think I did a good enough job of making it look nice. It was a little tricky to work out how to do this, but it's just kind of a 3D puzzle, and I figured it out. I'm going to put a hook and eye here, and then snaps down here and up here. And I still need to sew in the shoulder pads and attach the hooks and eyes and snaps at the placket, and then it will be done, and I'm going to wear it tomorrow. So let's see it on right now. And here it is, all done. I am very happy with it. I think it's beautiful. It's very comfortable to wear. It's actually fairly easy to get on and off, even with the side placket closure. So I will probably make this pattern again. I really like it. So this of course means it's time for some reveal footage. Enjoy. So yeah, it's a great dress. I'm really looking forward to wearing it for the rest of the winter. I made the 3/4 length sleeves, partly because I feel like I should have more dresses with this sleeve length, partly because that's literally the sleeve length of the purple dress pictured on the envelope, and I wanted to make that exact dress. I just really liked the way it looked, and I had the right fabric in the right color to make it, so that's what I made. I'm just really happy with it. I think it's very elegant, very 40s. It's exactly what I wanted, so yay. Okay, Chelsea from the future here. It's been a month, and I did intend to immediately start on the next dress, and I did in fact immediately start on the next dress, but this video is getting very long. I am 90% done editing it now, and I'm just going to cut it off here, have just one dress in this video, and the next dress will be in probably not the next video, but another one soon. Note to self, one garment per video. That should be the plan, and then if more come about, they can be extras if there's time. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, feel free to give me a like, And if you want to see more, definitely subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! The first one I definitely... Focus on my face. That informs how I'm going to go about... And I'm happy to... is altering this dress. Shh. Oh my eye.